Back in the war days, World War II, that is when the world was tearing itself apart. My heart got torn right along with it. I was just a slip of a girl, 19 and full of dreams, marrying my sweet Tommy, who'd signed up to fight those Nazis overseas. We had us a little farm, a plot of earth that promised forever, but then came that telegram, the one that knocks the breath clean out of you. Tommy gone in some foxhole in France, leaving me with child and a belly full of sorrow. I hid that baby girl away. You see, her daddy's folks, they were strict Methodists, no room for scandal in their Bible-thumping world. Named her Rosie after the Riveter posters, thinking she'd be strong like that, but I gave her up to kin in Nebraska, pretending she never happened. Oh, the ache of it still stings like a fresh bee sting. That's my first secret, honey, the one that started it all. If you're feeling this pull in your chest, go on and hit that share button. Let your folks know what real loss feels like. I pictured this. It was a sticky summer, even in 42, the kind where the cicadas buzzed louder than a revival meeting. Tommy and me, we were courting under that big elm tree behind the county fair, the air thick with cotton candy and hope. He was tall as a silo with eyes bluer than the Kansas sky and a laugh that could melt the frost off a winter morning. We talk about building a life together, him coming home a hero, me tending the garden and raising little ones with names like liberty and justice. But war don't care about sweet dreams, does it? He kissed me goodbye at the train station, his uniform crisp as a new dollar bill, and I waved till the smoke swallowed him whole. Letters came steady at first, full of promises and sketches of Paris streets he'd see. Then nothing, just silence heavier than a harvest moon. Months dragged on like a plow through clay, and my belly swelled with our secret. Folks in town whispered behind their hands, wondering why Etta Mae was looking peaked and avoiding the soda fountain. Mama, she knew, though, her eyes softening when she'd catch me staring at the horizon. We didn't talk much about it, just baked pies and mended socks, pretending the world weren't unraveling. But one crisp October day, the mailman dropped that yellow envelope on our doorstep and everything shattered like Mama's best china. Killed in action. It said plain as day, and I crumpled right there on the porch, the words burning holes in my heart. Tommy, my Tommy gone before he ever held our baby. I screamed till my throat was raw, and the neighbors came running with casseroles and prayers, but nothing filled the hole he left. That's when the real darkness settled in, honey. I couldn't face the judging eyes, so I packed a bag and rode the bus to Aunt Clara's in Lincoln. The baby came quick and fierce, a girl with Tommy's blue eyes and a tuft of hair like corn silk. Rosie, I called her in the quiet of that delivery room, holding her close, smelling that newborn scent that twists your gut. But the war had taken more than my love, it had taken my future too. Aunt Clara, she arranged it all quiet, like giving Rosie to a childless couple in town, promising she'd have the life I couldn't give. I signed the papers with shaking hands, kissing her forehead one last time, whispering, "Be brave, little one, like your pa." Walked away living my heart in that bassinet and a secret heavier than any crop debt. Years passed, but that loss, it festered like a thorn you can't dig out. I'd wake in the night sweating, dreaming of what ifs, Tommy coming home, Rosie calling me mama. The war ended with cheers and flags waving, but for me it was just the start of a long, lonely road. Folks said time heals all wounds, but honey, some scars, they just get deeper with the wearing. Yet here I am telling you this, cause holding it in, it's like carrying a boulder uphill. If this story's stirring something in you, that family secret you've buried, share it with someone today. Y'all hit that like and pass it on. Let's remind each other we're all just trying to make it through the storm together. Oh, but wait, there's more to unpack from those early days. The tragedies didn't stop with Tommy's telegram. See, after I got back to Kansas, the farm was struggling bad with no man to tend it, and the banks breathing down Pa's neck. We'd hear tales from the radio about boys from nearby towns shipping out and not coming back, families shattered like mine. I threw myself into work in the fields, dawn to dusk, blistered hands, and all trying to outrun the grief. But secrets have a way of piling up, don't they? One night during a harvest dance, I met a fella named Hank, a quiet type from the next county over. He was kind, helped with the chores, and for a spell it felt like sunshine peeking through clouds. We married quick in 45, thinking it'd mend the broken pieces. Little did I know Hank had his own shadows from the Pacific Theater nightmares that'd wake him hollering in a bottle that became his best friend. Life rolled on with Hank. We had 2 boys, Jimmy and Walt, raising them in that same creaky house where Tommy and I dreamed our dreams. The boys were spit and vinegar, full of mischief, climbing barns and racing bikes down dirt roads. Jimmy, he was the dreamer, like his pa, sketching airplanes and talking about flying high. Walt more practical, fixing fences and helping with the chores. But the good times, they were fragile as a spider web. Hank's drinking worsened after the war, leaving him mean some nights, and I'd hush the boys in their room, telling stories of brave soldiers to drown out the yelling. That's another secret, honey. The bruises I hid under long sleeves and the lies I told myself that it was just the bottle talking, not the man I loved. Then came Korea not long after, and Jimmy, he was 18, hot-blooded, and signed up without a word to us. I begged him not to go remembering Tommy's train station goodbye, but he hugged me tight, said, "Mama, I'll be home before the snow flies." Snow flew and then some. Letters trickled in from the front lines, talking about hills and foxholes that sounded too much like Tommy's stories. Christmas '52, we waited by the radio for news, but instead came the knock at the door, two officers stiff in their dress blues. Jimmy lost in some frozen battle overseas, his sketches scattered on his bed untouched. I held Walt close that night, both of us breaking, while Hank drowned his sorrow in whiskey. The farm slipped further away, Death's Mountain, and my heart a patchwork of losses. Through it all, I kept Rosie's existence locked tight. No one knew, not even Hank. I'd stare at old photos, wondering if she looked like me or Tommy, if she had kids of her own laughing in some Nebraska kitchen. Resilience, it ain't pretty, honey. It's scraping yourself up after being knocked down again and again. I took in sewing work, mending uniforms for the VFW hall, listening to widows share their pains. We'd cry together over coffee, saying things like, "The good Lord don't give us more than we can carry," though some days I wondered if he got that wrong. But carry on we did, because quitting weren't an option in our little corner of America. As the 50s turned to 60s, Vietnam loomed like a storm cloud, and Walt, he was next. 20 now with a steady job at the mill, but the draft notice came anyway. We fought it, tooth and nail petitions and pleas, but off he went to basic training, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, eyes scared but set. Hank and me, we drove him to the bus stop silent the whole way, my hand squeezing his till it hurt. Letters from Nam were sparse, talking about jungles thicker than lies and buddies dropping like flies. Then nothing for weeks, and my stomach twisted worse than any hunger pang from the Dust Bowl days. Peak of the worry came one humid July evening. The phone rang, and a voice from the base said, "Mrs. Harlan, your boy's missing in action." Missing, not dead, but gone all the same, swallowed by that green hell overseas. I paced the kitchen floor that night, praying to every saint I could remember. Hank passing out in his chair, oblivious. Days blurred into searches, telegrams flying back and forth, but no word. The town rallied bake sales and prayer vigils, folks bringing pies and promises, but inside I was unraveling thread by thread. That's when the first peek hit me hard, a letter from Rosie, or so I thought. Turned out to be from a nurse in Nebraska saying she'd heard rumors of a girl looking for her birth kin matching my description. My secret slipping out like sand through fingers. Heart racing. I wrote back careful words probing if it was her, but fear clamped down hard. What if she hated me for giving her away? Hope flickered, though faint as a candle in wind. Walt came home, eventually shell-shocked and silent, but alive, hitching rides through the bush after his unit got hit. We hugged till our ribs ached, and I whispered thanks to the stars that night. But the recession crept in '73, oil shocks and lines at the pumps. Hank lost his job at the factory, and we were scraping by on beans and pride. Secrets piled high, Rosie's trail gone cold, and a betrayal from Hank. An affair with a waitress from the diner that shattered what was left of our vows. I confronted him one rainy afternoon, tears mixing with the downpour, and he just hung his head, said, "Etta, I'm sorry, darling, the war broke me long ago." Forgiving him weren't easy, but holding grudges is like drinking poison and waiting for the other fella to die. Through the lean years, I found strength in the church quilting circles where ladies swapped stories tougher than boot leather. We'd laugh over coffee about kids and crops, cry over lost loves, and lean on each other like cornstalks in the wind. Resilience, it grows in the cracks, honey, where the light sneaks in. By the '80s, things steadied. Walt married a sweet girl from town, had grandkids that lit up my world like fireflies. Rosie, I searched quiet like through records and reunions, never finding her, but hoping she was out there happy. The heartbreaks, they shaped me, turned a scared girl into a woman who knows joy comes after the storm. Now, as I rock on this porch, watching the sunset paint, the field's gold, I see it all clear as day. Life's a tapestry woven with threads of sorrow and shine, but it's the American way, ain't it? We fight, we fall, we get back up stronger. If my story's touched you, honey, share it with your kin. Tell them to hold tight to their secrets and their dreams. Hit that subscribe and share button. Let's spread this hope far and wide, y'all, because every family's got a tale worth telling. Now let's mosey back a ways before the bomb started falling proper like a river winding to its source. My early days, they were rooted deep in the Kansas soil, that red dirt that sticks to your soul like molasses on a biscuit. Born in the spring of '41 in that tiny town of Kensington where the prairie meets the sky and a hug that never lets go. Pa, he was a sharecropper named Harlan, tough as hickory, with calluses from plowing fields that fought back harder than a mule with a burr under its saddle. Mama Clara, she came from Missouri stock, a gentle soul with hands that could soothe a colicky babe or whip up a cobbler that'd make your eyes roll back in bliss. We weren't rich by any stretch, no sir, just a family of five, me and my two brothers Elmer and Roy, crammed into a two-room soddy with a stove that belched smoke like an old steam engine. Life started simple as a Sunday hymn. Those Dust Bowl echoes still lingering in folks' tales, though. The big storms had mostly passed by my time. Pa'd rise before the rooster crow and harness the team and head to the acres we worked for old man Jenkins, who owned half the county. I'd toddle after him, sometimes my pigtails bouncing, clutching a tin pail for weeds or wild onions that Mama turned into supper. The wind had howled, constant carrying whispers of better days ahead or so. Pa said while he mended fences under that endless blue. Summers were magic barefoot runs through alfalfa fields, chasing grasshoppers till our lungs burned with laughter. Winters we'd huddle by the fire, Mama spinning yarns about her grandma crossing the plains in a covered wagon, dodging Indians and blizzards. "We're survivors, honey," she'd say, tucking me in with a quilt patched from Pa's old shirts. "The good Lord plants us where we can grow strong. But honey, early life ain't all fireflies and fresh baked bread. It's got thorns that prick deep if you ain't watching." By the time I was 6, the war clouds were gathering Europe, crackling like dry tinder, and America pulling up its sleeves. Pa listened to the radio after chores, voice of FDR booming about fireside chats and lend-lease to the Brits. We kids didn't grasp it much, just knew sugar was rationed and tires on the truck were bald as an eagle's head. Elmer, my big brother, he was 12 full of spit, and Vim volunteered to deliver papers for the local Gazette, bringing home headlines of Pearl Harbor that December day in '41. I remember the shock rippling through town like a stone and upon folks gathering at the feed store muttering, "This means us now." Pa's face went grim. He enlisted soon after leaving Mama to tend the farm with Roy and me, both of us too scrawny for heavy lifting. Pa shipped out to basic in Texas, letters coming steady at first, full of pride and postcards of boot camp drills. Tell the youngs to study hard, he'd write, this war will change everything, but change it did faster than a prairie fire. Roy and me, we stepped up, Elmer hauling hay bales, bigger than him and me, weeding the victory garden, planting tomatoes and beans to sell at market. Mama took in laundry from the wives left behind, her fingers raw from lye soap, but her smile steady as the sunrise. We'd sing while we worked old tunes like Over There, pretending Pa was marching with Johnny, Get Your Gun. Church was our anchor Sundays, packed with potlucks and prayers. Reverend Hayes preaching on sacrifice and the fight for freedom. I learned resilience, young honey. It's picking yourself up when the load gets heavy, sharing the yoke like good oxen. But here's where the first real tragedy sneaks in like a shadow at noon. Summer of '43, Pa was overseas in Italy, storming those hills with the Fifth Army when word came back through the grapevine he'd taken a bullet in the leg during the push at Anzio. Not dead, thank the stars, but laid up in a field hospital far from home, infection settling in like a bad neighbor. Letters stopped for months. Mama patching the floor, her Bible open to Psalms wearing thin from thumbing. We scraped by on war bonds and neighborly help. Old Jenkins cutting us slack on the rent, but the fear gnawed constant. I was 8, then hid in tears behind my chores, milking the cow at dawn, her warm flank a comfort when nothing else was. Roy, he toughened up overnight, quitting school to work the fields full time, his boyish laugh fading into a man's quiet resolve. Finally, a telegram arrived, not the dreaded kind, but one saying Pa was shipping home, honorable discharge with a limp and a Purple Heart pinned to his chest. The whole town turned out at the train station, band playing off key and flags waving like it was the 4th of July. I ran to him, wrapping my arms around his waist, smelling that hospital starch and tobacco, his mustache tickling my forehead. "Missed you, little sprouty," whispered voice rough as gravel, "but we're home now, gonna make this farm sing." He did too, hobbled but determined, planting wheat that fall with a cane in one hand and hope in the other. Mama cried that night in the kitchen, not from sorrow but relief, her hands kneading dough like she'd been holding back a flood. We feasted on chicken and dumplings, the first real meat in months, laughing till our sides ached, sharing stories of his battles minus the horrors. Those post-war years, they bloomed like corn after rain, America roaring back to life with shiny cars and soda fountains bubbling. Pa got a small plot of his own through the GI Bill, working it with Roy, while Elmer headed to the county college studying agronomy, dreaming of hybrid seeds. I was 10, 11, growing like a weed, tall and gangly with freckles across my nose from sunning in the fields. School was a one-room deal, Miss Hargrove teaching all grades, her ruler snapping for daydreamers. I love reading though, escaping into little house books, pretending I was Laura Ingalls, crossing prairies like mama's kin. Recess, we'd play kick the can or hopscotch chalked on the stoop, girls giggling about movie stars like Betty Grable while boys wrestled over baseball caps. Sundays after church, we'd picnic by the creek, fried chicken and potato salad spread on a checkered cloth, the river gurgling soft as a lullaby. Pod whittle whistles from willow branches, teaching us to call like bobwhite quail, his limp forgotten in the joy. Mama'd pack jars of chokecherry jelly from bushes we'd pick together, thorns pricking but worth the sweet reward. Life felt full, then honey abundant as the harvest moon, no shadows long enough to dim the light. But secrets they brew quiet even in the best times. Mine started small, a crush on the neighbor boy Billy, who lived down the road, his family farming sorghum that swayed gold in the breeze. We'd sneak apples from the orchard, sharing them under the hayloft, talking dreams of running away to Hollywood. Innocent stuff, but it planted a seed of wonder in my heart, making the world feel bigger than our county lines. By 12, I was helping Mama Moore in the house, churning butter till my arms ached and sewing hems on dresses from feed sacks printed with roses. The war's end brought kin together, uncles and cousins gathering for reunions under the big tent, trading war stories and recipes. Aunt Bess from Wichita, she'd bring lemon meringue pie flaky as clouds and tales of city lights that dazzled my country eyes. Someday you'll see it all, Etta Mae, she'd say, pinching my cheek, but don't forget your roots, they keep you grounded. Pa nodded proud, his girl turning into a young lady, but worry creased his brow, knowing the world beyond the farm was calling loud. Tragedy struck again, though, softer this time like a summer rain that floods the cellar. Roy at 16, he was strong as an ox hauling loads. That'd break a lesser man when the tractor rolled during harvest, clips a fence post and pins him under the wheel. Bones cracked, screams echoing across the fields, Pa running like the devil was chasing him. Doc came quick from town splints and prayers, but Roy's leg healed crooked, leaving him with a hitch worse than Pa's. No more full days in the saddle, just lighter chores and a bitterness that soured his smile. Why me? He'd mutter, staring at the horizon. I just wanted to help. Mama'd soothe him with broth and Bible versus her faith, a balm, while I tiptoed around the house feeling the weight settle heavier. That accident, it changed us. Roy turning inward, tinkering with engines in the barn, dreaming of fixing cars instead of farming. Elmer stepped up more, taking the heavy reins as college dreams deferred to keep us afloat. I watched it all, heart aching for my brothers learning early that life's joys come laced with pains you can't dodge, but resilience is sprouts tough like thistle in cracked earth. Pa gathered us one evening by the fire, his voice steady. Folks, we bend, but we don't break. That's the Kansas way. And we did mending with time and togetherness, Roy, even laughing again over checkers games where I let him win just to see that spark. As the 40s waned into 50s, rock and roll crackled on the radio, Elvis shaking his hips and girls swooning as sock hops. I was 14, blushing over dresses from the Sears catalog, saving nickels from egg money to buy fabric. School dances were magic under string lights in the gym, jitterbugging with fellas who smelled of pomade and promise. Billy and me, we stole kisses behind the bleachers, his hand warm and mine whispering sweet, nothing's about forever, but forever's fickle, honey, especially when Tommy entered the picture that summer fair where the Ferris wheel spun lazy against the stars. He was 17 working his family's dairy farm, broad-shouldered with a grin that lit the midway brighter than the bulbs. Courting Tommy, it was like breathing fresh air after a dust-up whirlwind romance of hayrides and stolen moments. Pa approved, liking his work ethic. Mama saw the light in my eyes that hadn't shone since Roy's accident. We dreamed big him, joining the service after high school, me waiting faithful with a ring on my finger. Life felt ripe and full of possibility, the American dream dangling like low-hanging fruit. But secrets lingered, Roy's resentment bubbling under his quiet, Elmer's hidden words about the farm's debts. I pushed them aside, focusing on the now, not knowing the storms brewing just over the horizon. Those early years, they shaped me, honey, forged in the fire of family and fields, teaching me to hold tight to the good amid the grit. If this takes you back to your own childhood memories, share them with your loved ones. Y'all hit that like button and pass this story on, because remembering where we came from, it's what keeps our roots strong. The struggles, they were coming, but for now, let's linger in the warmth of those simple days before the world got too big and broke our hearts wide open. Speak of nostalgia hit me hard. One crisp autumn morning when I was 15, the whole family gathered for the county fair. Pa'd won a blue ribbon on his wheat sheaf, proud as Punch posing for the photographer with us kids flanking him like sentinels. Mama beamed her apron crisp, the scent of caramel apples wafting from the stalls. Roy even cracked a joke about the prize pig looking fatter than Uncle Jed after Thanksgiving. Tommy was there too, squeezing my hand under the table during the pie eating contest, his eyes promising a future bright as the harvest sun. But beneath the joy, a whisper of worry, Pa confident later that the bank was calling notes due the farm, teetering on the edge of loss. That's the first real shadow of struggle, honey, the secret debt that threatened to uproot us all, tying back to those Dust Bowl days when land slipped through fingers like sand. We fought it though, community barn raising where neighbors pitched in hammering beams and sharing suppers under the stars. Reverend Hayes led a prayer circle asking for bountiful rains and steady prices, his words a lifeline in the uncertainty. I helped where I could milking cows at dawn and baking pies to sell at the fair booth, my fingers sticky with dough but heart full. Resilience, it was learning to lean on each other like shocks of corn standing tall together. Elmer, he sacrificed his semester fees, using them for seed instead, his books gathering dust on the shelf. Education can wait, he said, ruffling my hair, family first always. That selflessness is stung but inspired, pushing me to study harder, dreaming of becoming a teacher to give back to our little world. As 16 rolled around, Tommy and me, we were thick as thieves, planning a life beyond the fields, him talking of joining the army to see the world, me nodding excited but scared deep down. Dances at the Grange Hall, we two-stepped to Hank Williams, crooning about lost highways, his arms strong around my waist. Secrets multiplied, though, Roy confident one night by the creek that he envied Tommy's freedom, wanting to escape the farm's chains, but tied by duty. "Don't make my mistakes, Etta," he said, voice low. "Chase your happiness while you can." His words stuck like burrs, reminding me the weight we all carry, different but heavy. The farm held that year, rains coming just right, wheat golden and plentiful. We celebrated with a big supper, venison stew from a hunter's gift, and Mama's apple pie steaming hot. Laughter filled the house for the first time in months, Pa toasting to better days, his glass of well water raised high. But hope's fragile, honey, and the next peak loomed with the draft, whispers growing louder, boys. My age getting notices left and right. Tommy, he brushed it off, saying, "We'll wed before they call me up, make it official." My heart swelled at the thought, a simple ceremony in the church with family singing hymns of joy. Little did I know that dream. It was the calm before the telegram storm that'd shatter everything we built. Oh, but if those early years were the soil, my struggles, they were the storms that tested every root I had planted deep. After Tommy's death and giving up Rosie, I wandered back to Kansas Hollow as a dried gourd, trying to fill the emptiness with work and will. Hank came into my life like a gentle rain that summer of 45, him helping Pa with the harvest, his quiet way soothing my raw edges. We married in a simple ceremony at the county courthouse, Pa giving me away with a teary smile, Mama fussing over my dress made from flour sacks printed soft blue. Hank was a good man at first, tall and steady with hands that fixed what was broken around the farm. We settled into that old house, expanding it with a nursery, dreaming of filling it with laughter to chase away the ghosts. Jimmy came first in 46, a squalling boy with Tommy's blue eyes that pierced my heart every morning. Then Walt in 48, more solemn, quieter, but with a grin that lit the room like dawn. The first big struggle hit in 52, Korea flaring up like a bad rash, and Jimmy just turning 18 full of fire from those comic books about brave GIs. He signed up without a peep to us, packing his bag with a whoop, saying, "Ma, I'll bring home stories bigger than Pa's." I begged him, knees on the kitchen floor, remembering Tommy's train station wave, but he hugged me fierce, gotta do my part for Uncle Sam. Hank drove him to the depot, silent as stone, his jaw clenched tight. Letters came from boot camp full of bravado, talking marches and mess hall grub, but then the real fight started hills in the frozen north, where winter bit harder than any wolf. We'd gather round the radio, evening straining for news of advances and retreats, my hands twisting a dish rag till it frayed. Walt was 10, then clinging to my skirt, eyes wide, asking, "Will Jimmy come back, Ma, like Pa did?" Life hummed along those post-war days, America booming with new tractors and television sets, humming in neighbors' parlors. Hank worked the fields with Pa rising before light to plow and plant wheat that waved gold under the sun. I tended the home churning butter and tending the victory garden that never quite shrunk back from war times. The boys grew wild and free, Jimmy climbing the windmill like a monkey, Walt trailing after with a slingshot popping tin cans off the fence. Sundays we'd pile into the truck for church picnic baskets brimming with fried chicken and lemonade, the preacher's words on provision for families sinking in deep. But honey, under that calm, the cracks were forming Hank's eyes, distant some nights, staring at the radio reports from Europe, cleaning up the mess. He'd served in the Pacific Islands, hopping from atoll to atoll, dodging bullets, and worse, the memories that followed him home like shadows. Then the night came one gray November day, two fellas in uniform standing stiff on the porch, their hats in hand. Jimmy gone in a mortar blast near the chosen reservoir, his body shipped home in a flag-draped box. The town blurred through my tears, funeral packed with neighbors bringing hams and hymns, but nothing filled the hole. Hank, he broke quiet like wood splintering, turning to the bottle at the VFW hall, stumbling home with whiskey breath and regrets. I'd hush Walt in his bed, telling tales of Jimmy's mischief to drown the sobs, the secret of my first loss, Rosie bubbling up nights when sleep wouldn't come. Resilience, it meant getting up at dawn, frying eggs for Walt, pretending the world hadn't tilted off its axis. Pa helped with the chores, his limp worse, but spirit unbroken, boys in a better place, darling, watching over us. Korea faded, but the scars stayed. Hank's drink in a steady drip that eroded our days. By 55, he was missing shifts at the co-op, coming home late with excuses thinner than skim milk. Walt grew tough, helping more around the farm. His small hands blistered from hoeing rows while I sewed at night for extra cash uniforms for the local dry goods. Secrets piled. Hank hiding cash for booze, me hiding bruises from slaps when he'd rage about the war, stealing his peace. One earman after a bender, he confessed shaken. Etta, the islands, they took my soul, left me hollow, can't love right no more. I forgave him then, holding his head in my lap, whispering, we heal together, honey, one day at a time. But forgiveness ain't erasure. The pain lingered like smoke after a fire. As the 60s dawned, Vietnam loomed dark, and the boys were grown. Walt 20 now, working steady at the grain elevator, dreaming of a family of his own. The draft lottery hit like lightning numbers drawn on TV, and Walt's came up low as a snake's belly. We appealed, wrote letters to congressmen, but nothing stuck. He shipped out to basic in Georgia letters, home full of homesickness and jungle training that sounded like hell. Hank and me drove to see him graduate his uniform, hanging loose eyes, scared but smiling for us. Right off and son, Pa said, clapping his back, and come home quick. Back in Kansas, the wait stretched endless, radio blaring, body counts and protests, kids burning cards in the streets. I'd pray in the garden, weeds, forgotten hands clasped tight, Lord, keep my boy safe. Let him walk these fields again. Months in, and letters slow, talking patrols in the Central Highlands, mud thicker than lies and friends lost to ambushes. Walt wrote of a buddy from Texas shot in a rice paddy dying in his arms, whispering about his girl back home. My heart twisted knowing that fear, the one that stole Tommy and Jimmy. Then silence 2 weeks, nothing, my stomach, nothing worse than any hunger from lean times. Neighbors rallied prayer chains at church bake sales for the VFW, but inside I paced floors worn thin. That's when the peak crashed down, a call from the Red Cross, Walt missing after a chopper went down in bad weather, presumed captured or worse. Hank, he shattered, throwing a chair through the window, hollering, not another one, God, why? I collapsed crying for all the losses, peeling like unpaid bills. Rosie, Jimmy, Tommy, now Walt, the farm slipping further with no hands to hold it. Days blurred into searches, telegrams to the Pentagon clippings from the paper, hoping for a miracle. The secret of Rosie, it clawed at me. What if I told Walt about his half-sister, maybe to give him reason to fight back? Hank turned meaner, bottle his constant companion, nights of yelling that echoed off the walls. Walt, he came home, though, after a month, ragged and haunted, hitching rides through enemy lines, found by a patrol starving but alive. The reunion at the bus stop, we hugged till it hurt his uniform, filthy stories spilling out in whispers about tunnels and traps, that'd age a man overnight.
Ma, I saw hell.
He said, voice breaking, but your letters, they kept me going. Tears flowed free that day, the town throwing a welcome potluck, but Walt's eyes stayed distant, nightmares waking him sweating. Vietnam ended, but the war in our home raged on. Hank's drinking worse, losing his job at the mill when the bosses caught him nodding off. We scraped by on Walt's disability checks and my Seawan beans and cornbread, our daily fare, the fridge echoing empty. Recession hit 73, oil embargo lines snaking at pumps prices sky high and jobs scarcer than hen's teeth. Pa passed that winter heart given out in the barn, leaving Mama alone in the big house, her hymns fading to whispers. I moved her in with us, the house crowding but love stretching to fit. Secrets erupted one stormy night, Hank confessing an affair with Loretta, the waitress at the diner, her laugh easy what is wasn't. She don't look at me like I'm broken. He sobbed, rain hammering the roof. Betrayal stung deep like salt in a cut, but I saw the pain behind it, the war's legacy twisting good men wrong. Forgiving Hank again, it took every ounce of grit. Mama's hand on mine saying, mercy, honey, it's the only way through. We stuck it out, him going to meetings at the church, trying to dry out one day at a time. Walt married sweet Sally from town, a girl with kind eyes and a steady job at the bank. Their wedding small but joyful under the old elm where Tommy and I courted. Grandkids came, Caleb and Lila, tying red ribbons around my heart. Their giggles chasing shadows for a spell, but struggles, they don't quit easy. The farm sold off and 75 debts too heavy to bear, leaving us in a trailer on the edge of town, wind rattling the tin roof like angry ghosts. I'd walk the old field, sometimes staring at the stubble, wondering where the dreams went. Rosie's still a ghost in my mind. Searches turn up nothing but dead ends. Through the leanest times, resilience showing faint, but fierce community suppers at the hall where folks shared what little they had, potlucks with more heart than meat. Mama taught the grandkids hymns, her voice frail but true, passing on the stories that bound us. Hank sobered up some finding work, fixing tractors, his hands steady again, apologies whispered in the dark. Walt, he healed slow, opening a small repair shop, tinkering with engines like Roy once dreamed, his family growing roots in the soil I knew. Secrets I kept buried, Rosie Jimmy's letters tucked in a shoebox, the affair forgiven but not forgotten. Life's tragedies, they stack like cordwood, but honey, we learned to burn them for warmth, keeping the spark alive. Peak of the despair came 79, another recession bit them hard, factories shutting down, lines at the food bank stretching blocks. Hank relapsed bad one Christmas Eve, stumbling home with a bottle shattering the tree ornaments in a rage. I faced him then, voice steady, enough hollering, we end this or it ends us. He crumpled, sobbing like a child, the war pouring out in tales of islands and lost buddies I'd never heard full. We sought help, preachers, counseling, and group meets where vets shared scars raw as open wounds. Slow heal it was, but real Hank waking sober mornings, making coffee strong as his resolve. Grandkids sensed the shift, Caleb asking, Grandpa, why you sad sometimes? And Hank kneeling down, boy, life's got storms, but family's the umbrella. By the 80s, things steadied like a ship finding calm waters, Reagan talking Morning in America on the TV, a hope that trickled down to our trailer. Walt's shop thrived, fixing cars for the whole county, Sally baking pies for customers, their home filling with laughter. Mama passed gentle in her sleep, 82 Bible on her chest, a smile saying she'd found peace. Hank and me, we traveled some Greyhound to see kin in Missouri, holding hands like newlyweds, watching sunsets over fields much like ours. The struggles they forged us, honey, turned fragile dreams to iron-willed, the secrets lightening as I wrote letters to adoption agencies hoping for Rosie's trail. Resilience is not absence of pain, it's dancing in the rain when the thunder rolls. Another peak hit 87 when the farm's old owner died, living a parcel back to Pa's kin, us buying it cheap with savings from Walt's business. Planting wheat again, hands in the soil, my heart swelled, remembering early days before the losses piled high. Hank tilled beside me, his limp matching paws, laughing about being old coot still at it. Grandkids helped scattering seeds with glee, Lila's pigtails bouncing like mine once did. But secrets don't stay buried. A letter came from Nebraska, a woman claiming kin matching Rosie's birth date, my hands shaking as I read. Was it her? Hope flickered bright, scaring me more than the dark times, cause what if the reunion broke open old wounds? I set it aside, praying for courage, the American spirit pushing me to face what I'd run from. Through all the heartaches, Vietnam's ghosts, recession's bite, the betrayals that cut deep, I learned holding on ain't about strength alone. It's about sharing the load with those who love you. If these struggles ring true in your own life, honey, share this tale with your family. Y'all hit that share button and let's remind each other we're tougher than we know. The resolution, it was coming slow, but sure, light breaking through the clouds after too long in the storm. Now, as the 90s dawned like a fresh plowed field, the resolution started creeping in slow and steady, honey, not with trumpets blaring, but with quiet steps that mended what the storms had torn. Hank and me, we were in our 50s, then the trailer feeling less like a cage and more like a nest we'd feathered through the trials. That letter from Nebraska sat on the kitchen table for weeks, staring back at me like a dare from the good Lord. I was scared, spitless. What if this woman wasn't Rosie? What if she was and hated me for the giving away? But resilience, it whispers, keep going. So one evening after supper with Hank snoring in his chair, I penned a reply, simple words about a baby girl born in 43 blue eyes and corn silk hair, hoping it stirred something in her heart. Days turned to weeks, no answer, just the tick of the clock mocking my nerves, but then came the envelope postmarked Omaha, my hands trembling as I slid it open. She was Rosie or Ruth, as she'd been raised a nurse now with grown kids and grandbabies of her own, living quiet in a suburb outside Lincoln. The words danced on the page telling how she'd always felt adrift searching records after her adoptive folks passed, wondering why her birthmark gave her up in wartime sorrow. We wrote back and forth letters thick with questions and tears, me spilling the Tommy story, the telegram, the ache that never dulled. Hank, he read 'em too, nodding silent, his own losses making him gentle for the first time in years. Go see her, Etta, he said one night over coffee. Close that chapter, darling, before it's too late. So we did, driving the old Chevy across the state line, that crisp fall day leaves turning gold like the wheat fields back home. The meeting was at a diner booth, red vinyl seats and pie smelling sweet, the air thick with what ifs till she walked in tall like Tommy with my freckles and a smile that broke the dam. We hugged till our ribs creaked, tears soaking napkins as stories poured out like rain after drought. Rosie, she forgave, easy saying, "Mama, you gave me life and a family that loved me fierce. I ain't blaming you for the war's cruelty." Her husband waited patient outside, a solid fella named Ed, shaking Hank's hand firm when we met. Grandkids trailed and 2 boys and a girl full of questions and hugs, their energy chasing shadows from the room. That day marked the first real mending, honey. Rosie's secret no longer awake, but a bridge tying our worlds with threads of blood and forgiveness. We drove home lighter, Hank singing off key to the radio, his arm around me, the Kansas sky vast and welcoming again. If family reunions like this tug at your soul, y'all share this moment, let it inspire you to reach out to lost kin, because healing starts with one brave step. Life didn't flip overnight, but ripples spread from that meeting. Rosie visiting for holidays, bringing pies and tales of her nursing days, saving lives in city hospitals far from our prairies. Walt took to her quick, calling her Aunt Ruth at first, then sister with a grin, his own family welcoming her into the fold, Caleb and Lila asking endless questions about her adventures. Hank, he opened up more to sharing Pacific stories around the supper table, no bottle in sight, his eyes clear as the creek after rain. The trailer got louder with laughter, weekends turning into gatherings where we'd swap yarns, Mama's old recipes simmered on the stove, Rosie adding her twists with herbs from her garden. Community noticed too, the church ladies clucking approval at our potlucks. Hank volunteering to fix pews, his hands useful again. Resilience, it bloomed in those connections, honey, turning isolated pains into shared strength. The American way of pulling together when the going gets rough. By the new millennium, things steadied further. Walt's shop expanding with a second Bayhuron, a young vet from the Gulf War, teaching him engines and life lessons over greasy lunches. Sally, she started a daycare in their home, watching neighborhood young'uns while Lila helped after school, her pigtails, now braids and dreams of college dancing in her eyes. Hank and me, we bought a small house on the edge of town, nothing fancy but solid, with a porch for rocking chairs and a yard for growing tomatoes that burst juicy in the sun. Rosie moved closer after Ed retired, settling in a cottage near the river, commute short for visits that filled our calendars. Secrets, they surfaced gentle now, Jimmy's old sketches. Rosie found in my shoebox, her tears mixing with mine as we framed them on the wall, a tribute to the boy who'd sparked her life. Tommy's memory honored too, a star named after him at the VFW plaque shining under lights during Memorial Day parades. Look, resolution ain't without its bumps, honey. The economy dipped again in '01 after the towers fell, fear gripping the nation like a cold wind. Walt worried about layoffs at the co-op, his shop slow with folks holding tight to cash, but we rallied family fundraisers, barbecues, where neighbors bought burgers and shared worries. Rosie, she volunteered at the Red Cross organizing drives for troops overseas, her nursing skills a beacon in the dark. Hank, he mentored more vets, gathering for coffee talks, where stories flowed free, easing burdens that war left heavy. I took up writing letters to soldiers inspired by Tommy's old ones, words of home and hope mailed to bases far away, touching lives I never met. Through it all, the farm parcel we reclaimed it, thrived wheat and sorghum alternating years, Pa's spirit in every stalk. Grandkids helped harvest summers, Caleb driving the tractor, careful Lila bundling sheaves with laughs echoing across the fields. Peak of the turning came one golden September Sunday, a big reunion under the old elm tree where Tommy and I first kissed. Rosie brought her whole clan, Ed grilling burgers, the air thick with smoke and stories from every branch. Walt and Sally, their kids running wild with cousins, new and old, Hank toasting with lemonade. To family, the real heroes in this life. Tears came easy that day, but joyful ones, washing away the last grit of old sorrows. I held Rosie's hand, feeling the years melt her blue eyes, meeting mine, a silent thank you for the courage that brought us here. Secrets fully aired, Jimmy's lost waltz, Naam haunts Hank's bottle days, all laid bare in the sunshine, turning poison to wisdom. The American dream had shone bright that afternoon, not in riches, but in roots deep and wide, tying us to the land and each other. As the decade wore on, health nudged this gentle Hank's heart, acting up doc, saying slow down, but he wouldn't quit fixing things around the house or helping Walt at the shop. Rosie, she battled cancer, quiet, fierce treatments in Lincoln, but family shuttling her to appointments, prayers constant as breath. We gathered more those years, hospital waits turning into story sessions, me reading from Mama's Bible, her voice in my head, soothing like always. Hank held her hand one vigil, whispering, "You're tougher than any foxhole Ruth fight like your pa, Tommy did." She pulled through remission, coming like spring after harsh winter, her smile brighter for the scare. Grandkids grew Lila off to community college, studying nursing like her aunt Caleb, joining the Army Reserves, but promising home quick his duffel light with our letters. Resolution deepened in forgiveness, honey. Hank and me renewing vows quiet in the church on our 50th, just us, and the preacher rings simple but true. Walt walked me down the aisle, his arms strong echoing Pa's old pride, Sally crying soft in the pews. Rosie stood witness her presence, the gift that healed the biggest wound. Life's triumphs, they came small but mighty, a community award for Hank's vet work, a quilt from the ladies' circle pieced with our family squares. The recession of '08 hit hard, houses, foreclosing jobs, vanishing, but we weathered it together, potlucks, stretching meals, community barn dances, lifting spirits. Walt's shop pivoted to repairs for wind turbines, new green jobs sprouting on the plains, keeping us afloat. Rosie's grandkids visited often their city ways, mixing with our country rhythms, teaching us all about the world's wideness. Through the turns, I found personal strength writing a memoir, scraps of paper turned to pages shared at book clubs where widows nodded knowing. Your story gives us hope, Etta. They'd say over tea, shows resilience wins out. Hanky built a workshop in the garage, tinkering birdhouses that dotted neighbors' yards, his hands steady symbols of renewal. Family ties strengthened Walt Hostin Thanksgiving's tables groaning with turkey and tails, Rosie adding her pies, a tradition born from our meeting. Secrets transformed into strengths. Jimmy's sketches inspiring Caleb's art, Walt's Nam stories cautioning the young uns about war's cost. The land, too. The parcel expanded with a small orchard, apples crisp and red picking days full of song like my childhood. Another peak rose in 2015. Rosie's 60th, a surprise party at the farm, under tents with lanterns glowing like fireflies. Family from coast to coast kin I'd never met, hugging tight stories, weaving a tapestry richer than any quilt. Hank danced with her slow to an old Glenn Miller tune, his steps careful but sure, whispering, "Proud to call you daughter-in-law." Tears flowed, but laughter louder, the night ending with s'mores by the fire, grandkids roasting marshmallows, their faces lit with wonder. That gathering, it sealed the resolution, honey, past tragedies, now foundations for joy, the heartbreaks, fuel for the fire that warmed us all. If this reunion's magic stirs you, y'all share it wide, encourage your own mendings, 'cause family's the glue that holds America's heart together. In my 70s, the resolutions stacked like cordwood, keeping the home fires burning steady. Health held Hank and me, active walks down the dirt road hand in hand, watching hawks wheel overhead. Rosie, she mentored nurses at the hospital. Her experience a light for the new generation, sharing tales of loss and lifting up. Walt retired comfortable, passing the shop to Caleb, who modernized it with tech but kept the old ways alive. Sally and Lila, they started a bakery in town, pies and bread, scented with home selling out, daily drawing folks for coffee chats. Grandkids scattered, but rooted Lila, a nurse, and Wichita Caleb, serving stateside his letters full of pride, not peril. Secrets all shared, no more hiding, just open books, pages turned with care. Triumphs kept coming, small town honors, a street named after Pa for his war service, Hank pinning the plaque with a salute. We traveled some RV, loaned from Walt, seeing the Grand Canyon red as rust and the ocean roaring like thunder, first times late but sweet. Rosie's cancer stayed gone, her energy boundless, gardening and grandbabysitting her cottage, a hub for holidays. Forgiveness rippled out Hank, making amends to old buddies from the VFW, letters of sorry and thanks, mending rifts from bottle days. I forgave myself too for Rosie for the hide in her words. You did what you had to, Mama. A balm deeper than any prayer. The American spirit, it pulsed strong in our resolutions, honey, fighting through wars and woes to claim the peace earned hard. As the years softened edges, the family grew, vines twisting strong. Caleb marrying a girl from Texas, their wedding under the elm again, vows echoing ours. Lila, she adopted a little one from the city, brown eyes full of curiosity, tying new threads to the tapestry. Hank and me, we sat porches, more watching sunsets, paint the sky fire orange, talking quiet about the road walked. Resolutions, they weren't perfect, honey bumps and all, but hopeful, bright as dawn after the longest night. Rosie and I, we wrote a book together, her words, mine twined tales of separation and union, published small but touching hearts at readings. Vets and adoptees came nodding. This is us, their stories, spilling, post-signing, building a circle wider than the prairie. Peak of hope crested one Memorial Day, Walt organizing a service at the VFW dedicating a garden to Jimmy, Tommy, and all lost boys. Rosie planted the first rose red as courage, her hand in mine as we watered it together. Hank spoke, brief voice, steady. These men, they gave everything so we could heal and hold on. Grandkids laid flags, tears in their eyes, but heads high, the crowd silent, then clapping thunderous. That moment, it wrapped the resolution tight, honey. Tragedies transmuted to tributes, resilience, the bloom from buried seeds. Share this if it lifts your spirit. Y'all, let's honor our own heroes by living the peace they fought for. Now, as I sit here on this weathered porch, swing creaking under my weight, the sun dipping low, painting the Kansas sky in strokes of pink and gold, I can't help but reflect on the long road that's brought me to this peaceful evening. 84 years, honey, that's a heap of sunrises and storms, more joys than I deserve and sorrows enough to fill a riverbed. Life's like that old quilt Mama pieced together, patches of bright calico from good days stitched to the faded flour sacks of hard times, all held firm by threads of love and grit. I've lost count of the heartbreaks, Tommy's telegram, Jimmy's box, Walt's missing days, Hank's bottle, Rosie's empty cradle. But look at us now whole again, stronger for the tyranny. The American spirit, it shines through, don't it? We folks from small towns like Kensington, we bend with the wind but snap back tall, 'cause quitting ain't in our blood, y'all. If these reflections stir your soul, hit that share button, pass them to your kin, so they too can see how resilience turns ashes to beauty. Looking back the early days, those Dust Bowl roots, they taught me foundation matters, deep soil that nourishes even when the rains forget. Pa's hands in the earth, his hymns whistled through chores, that was my first lesson. Hold on to the land, it holds you back. The war years, they shattered illusions, showing how fragile dreams can be. A boy gone, a baby, hidden, a family scattered like chaff in the breeze. But honey, from those ruins grew the will to rebuild Tommy's loss. It carved space for Hank and the boys, Jimmy's fire. It lit a path for Walt's quiet strength. Secrets I carried like stones in my apron, Rosie's existence. Hank's shadows, they weighed heavy, but revealing them lightened the load, turned burdens to bonds. Reflection shows me forgiveness ain't weakness. It's the key unlocking doors bolted shut by pride and pain. Hank and me, we learned that slow is apologies. Mine, too mending the marriage like mending a fence after a twister. The struggles, they were the forge hammering out my shape. Vietnam's jungles, recession's bite, betrayals that cut like barbed wire. Walt coming home haunted his eyes, seeing ghosts. I couldn't chase away Hank's affair. A knife twist in the gut, the farm slipping away, leaving us rootless in that tin trailer. Yet through it all, community was the anvil holding us steady. Church suppers, prayer circles, neighbors with a hand or a hot dish. That's America at its core, honey. Not the big cities or the headlines, but the everyday folks sharing the yoke when one yoke breaks. Resilience, it ain't solo. It's a circle, arms linked against the gale. Rosie's return proved that her forgiveness of balm soothing wounds. I'd picked that for decades. Now her grandkids call me Nana, their hugs warming the spots Jimmy and Walt once filled life's way of balancing the ledger with grace. Oh, and the resolutions, they weren't fireworks, but steady fires burning clean, reunions under the elm letters turned into visits, a family woven wider than before. Hank's sobriety, the shop's success, Rosie's health, holding firm, Lila's nurse and Caleb's service, all triumphs born from the ashes. Reflection whispers gratitude, honey, for the health that lingers, the porch that rocks, the memories that comfort. I've seen wars come and go, World War II's glory, Korea's freeze, Vietnam's shame, the Gulf's quick strikes, each taking a piece, but giving back lessons in valor and vanity. Economic woes, the Great Depression shadowed, the 70s oil crunch. The '08 crash, they pinched tight but taught Sharon stretches what little you got. USA themes, they run through my tail like rivers through the plains, patriotism and Pa's Purple Heart, sacrifice in Tommy's foxhole, endurance in the farm's fight against banks and droughts. We Americans, we rise because we remember the cost freedom ain't free, but it's worth every tear. Peeking on wisdom now in these golden years, I see patterns clear as creek water. Life's a cycle, planting, weeping, harvesting, resting. Tragedies, they peak every stretch, but so do the joys that follow a telegram's sorrow, then Rosie's smile, a bottle's rage, then Hank's steady hand. Secrets kept too long fester like unturned soil, but aired, they fertilize growth. My Rosie story, now a bridge, not a barrier. Hopeful tone, it colors it all, honey, 'cause even in the darkest midnight dawn creeps inevitable as spring. I've told this tale to grandkids, their eyes wide, absorbing the grit and glory, warning them wars wound deep recessions test faith, but family heals if you let it. Walt nods along, his Nam scars faded, but they're adding grandma's right, life storms build character. Hank chuckles soft, and character builds legacies. That's the reflection, honey, passing the torch, not with lectures, but living examples. Vital elements in my story, they ain't planned, but natural peaks of emotion that tug and twist Tommy's goodbye. The missing call, Rosie's hug, each a hook pulling you deeper, Sharon, because it mirrors your own hidden pains. USA pride swells in the themes, World War II's Rosie the Riveter, echoing my daughter's name, Vietnam's vets like Walt finding purpose. Post-battle, the recession survivor scraping by on beans and belief, call to action. It bubbles up natural, y'all. Share if it hits home, because stories like mine, they connect us, reminding no one's alone in the fight. Reflection on resilience, it's the thread tying it all. I've fallen plenty, dusted off more times than I can count, but each rise stronger, knees shakier, but spirit firmer. God or fate, or just plain stubbornness, it keeps us going, turning 84-year-old Etta Mae into a storyteller whose words might just light someone's dark night. As the stars wink on one by one, I ponder the what-ifs, fewer now, because the road taken led here to this porch to you listening. What if Tommy lived? What if no secrets? But honey, those ifs, they pale next to the real. The family gathered the land, reclaimed the peace earned. Hope shines brightest in reflection, looking back to see progress forward. The boys who fought, now grandpas teaching peace. The girl given away, now given back as nurse. American dream, it ain't mansions or millions, it's this small town heart beating steady through heartbreaks to harmony. I've lived the full arc, hook of loss, build of struggle, resolve of reunion, now the quiet close where lessons linger. Y'all, if this warms your cockles like a hearth fire, share it wide, subscribe for more tales from the porch, because every grandma's got a story and every story's got hope. Digging deeper into those reflections, the early life joys, they contrast sharp with later pains, making gratitude deeper. Firefly chases, hayloft whispers, those innocent sparks, they fuel the fire through dark times, reminding me joy's seed waits patient under snow. Pa's farm loss, it mirrored my own, but his comeback taught persistence, plant again deeper next time. Mama's hymns, they echo still, soothing Walt's nightmares, Rosie's fears, my own midnight doubts, faith, a quiet power stronger than any storm. Secrets waited taught discretion, but also the freedom and truth. Rosie's reunion, a testament, speak up before it's silenced forever. Hank's journey from bottle to birdhouses, it shows redemption's possible one sober dawn at a time. His love renewed, a gift I cherish more for the losing. Struggles, peaks, they built empathy. Honey, Jimmy's loss opened arms to other widows. Vietnam's weight taught patience in uncertainty. Recession's pinch shared with neighbors, now lifelong friends. Resolution's bridges, Rosie Walt's family. The land's return, they prove connection conquers isolation. One hug, one handshake at a time. Reflection on USA themes, double World War II's unity. It lives in our potlucks. Vietnam's division, healed in vet circles. Recession's hardship forged community bonds, unbreakable. Viral, pull it comes from relatability, that universal ache of loss. The sweet rush of finding hope peaks every 500 words or so to keep you leaning and shouting, because it feels like your story too. Tone stays realistic, no fairy dust, just folksy truth laced with hope, because life's messy but mended beautiful. Peeking on family, now the grandkids, they are the reflections mirror, Caleb's service, honorable not haunted, Lila's care, giving back Rosie's legacy and her teaching. Honk and me, we watch them grow our wrinkles, maps of the road, shared pride swelling like wheat and rain. Secrets all out, no more hiding, just honest yarns around the fire, teaching the young ones vulnerability, strength, not shame. Resilience, it culminates here in telling this tale voice, steady heart, full no words, might mend a stranger's break. American resilience, it mirrors mine wars, endured economies, bounce back families reunited. That's the nation's soul beating proud. As night settles, soft crickets chirping their evening song, I wrap this reflection with a sigh content. The hook of heartbreak long past the build of trials, a foundation solid, the resolve a circle complete. Life's narrative, it arcs hopeful ending, not with period, but ellipses, more stories waiting in the wings. Y'all, thank you for sitting a spell share. If it touched you deep, subscribe to hear more from this old porch, because remembering together, that's how we heal, how we hope, how we hold on to the sunshine side of it all. God bless and good night, honey, till next time.